Farm Bureau. A good week for Mississippi State. We talked about the fact that it felt like they needed 4 wins, and they got 4 wins with a midweek victory, and then kind of a choppy weekend, starting on Thursday, having weather issues on Friday, playing a doubleheader on Saturday, but getting wins each time they stepped on the diamond. And Chris Lemonis is kind enough to step away from the diamond, where Mississippi State is practicing, to spend just a few minutes with us. Coach, what a day. I mean, mid-upper 70s, sunshine. Let's do it.
Yeah, I hear you. You change the game, you get yelled at. But I just felt like it was going to be a lot better day on Saturday than it was on Friday night. And I feel like a call.
Yeah, it certainly worked out well. Just overall, a good week for your ball club to get a midweek win and then sweep a weekend series. You see confidence starting to grow a little bit?
Well, I think we're figuring ourselves out a little bit. I think we want to figure out our lineup a little bit more. I think that's the biggest piece. But the pitching pieces, the defense, and a lot of our lineup too. I just feel like we can be a little bit more explosive offensively.
What has the return of David Maran been? Obviously, a little bit of not able to go right out of the gate, but he kind of gets in and just kind of becomes a guy that's got so much experience and just such a good player.
Well, we got him and Kohler back at the same time, and I thought that was huge. I mean, just 2 pieces of the lineup, 2 really good defenders. It's taken Maran a couple of days to get back into the infield after the hamstring, but Maran's like a water bug. I mean, he does everything. He's switch hitter, he bunts, he's a great base runner. Just he can do a lot of things for you, and he adds a real spark to the lineup.
Coach, you mentioned being a good defender there. You've only had 10 errors through 12 games this year. I went back and looked. You had 20 through 12 games last year. I know that number has to be greatly upsetting to even remember. And I don't know if my question is just more of like how pleased are you with your defense, but the improvements there are very noticeable. And you talked about it during the preseason a little bit too, that you thought this team would be much better defensively.
Yeah, and we've made 4 errors on pickoffs. We've picked off 4 guys and made an error on 4 of them. So for the position players that are out there every day, it's even been smaller, So it's we feel like we got some really good defenders out there, not just securing the baseball, but they're rangy, they're athletic, they can run a little bit so they can cover some ground. I think it's really helping our pitching staff.
Part of that pitching staff, Coach, Nate Dom, more like Nate Dominator right now. In 3 starts, he's got a 1.02 ERA with 22 strikeouts and 3 walks. How good is he, and how much better can he be?
Well, I think that's the question. He's really good, and he's pitched really good at times in his career. I think the biggest step forward for him has been his off speed. It's a dominant fastball, and not just to use that word because of him, but it's an elite level fastball. It's got a ton of ride. He can locate it. It's got velocity. But, what he's really starting to do over time is the breaking stuff's getting better. The curve, he's got a new curveball, slider, changeup, and that's still the growth. I mean, he's got a chance. There's a lot better baseball ahead of him, too. He's in there. I just left him. He's in there working, and they're working on pitches and things like that, trying to just elevate his game. Because, as every week goes on, even this weekend will be our biggest challenge in terms of his start with Evansville because they're very offensive, So it'll be another jump forward, and then the next Friday night you're playing LSU. So having all your pitches in your back pocket is important, and being able to do some different things.
Pitching staff as a whole, strikeout to walk ratio this year, 144 strikeouts and only 35 walks. We know that was an issue at times, giving up too many freebies a year ago. What has led to not just a change individually, but kind of staff-wise? Is there like a mindset shift?
Well, I think there's, I think Coach Parker came in, and because of last year, that became an area that was, hey man, we have to be better in this area. And I think naturally, even, Dome was a strike thrower. Cal Stevens, who we brought in, has always been a strike thrower. Durangelo is really a great strike thrower. At times he didn't last year, but I think just being new to SEC baseball was a little bit of that, and once those guys go out and set that tone, it's amazing that everybody will just, fall in line behind it. And it's and when you're not doing it, it's amazing how everybody starts throwing balls. And so I think some of those guys are setting a great example at the start of these games, and everybody else is just falling in line.
Coach, we saw the announcement of Carson Lian as the starter for the game against USM tomorrow. In a midweek game at this point in the season, and when against an opponent like USM, do you just want to see how much he can give you, or do you still think, okay, we're going to try to run as many guys out there as we can?
No, we're going to try to see how much he can give us. I mean, he's a career starter. He's been a 1 or 2 starter at the University of Miami. Kind of came back a little slow because of just arm buildup and arm volume. But we got him built up now, and he's pitched a little in our pen. He's had some good outings and some not so good outings. Like I told Coach Parker, I just think he's been a starter his whole life. Even since the first day he stepped on campus at Miami, he was starting on the weekend. So getting him out there and us getting a good start out of him is going to be huge. I mean, it's a big game for us.
Coach, just a little bit more about that game. What you expect to see from Southern Miss? They seem to be a team that pitches it pretty well, struggled a little bit offensively early in the year. Is this just another Southern Miss team that you know is going to be solid kind of in all phases?
Yeah, they are. They're just so well coached. And they've been, I know Scott Berry was there for years and Corky, and now it's Oz. I mean, they do a great job of teaching the game there. And like I told our kids, we just left our team meeting a little while ago. You're going to play a very fundamental team. You're going to play a team that can really, really pitch and know how to command the zone. And then they know how to play offense. That's what they do. And as offense goes through the year, it goes up and down, hot and cold for everybody. They have a pretty steady offense because they're able to do a lot of things. And I think that's what they've always been able to do. So it'll be a tough game. Like I said, just making sure all my new guys realize these guys have been to 2 straight supers, and it's one of the better programs in the country. It's a big game. It's a rivalry game.
And then you talked about this weekend facing a team that's pretty offensive. Give us just a little bit of a scouting report about what you're going to see.
Well, I think Evansville lost in their championship game last year and brought everybody back. And it's one of these – they're still one of those – I guess you call them one of the COVID teams, because I think they have 7 guys that are either 22 or 23 in their lineup, 5th-year or 6th-year players, right? And so they just play together for a long time. You look at them offensively, I think they're hitting like 370. They went to Oral Roberts, who was in the World Series last year, and beat them opening weekend. And even all their pitchers, it's just everybody's back from last year's team. And, they've had a lot of success offensively here early. And they had it last year too. So if you look at their numbers and returning guys, it's just a lot of experience. And so you get that with some of these good mid-major programs right now. And I've known their coach, from my time back in Indiana, playing those guys forever. But they just, they'll be a tough matchup this weekend.
Coach, you're 8-4. This time of season ago, 12 games in, you were 7-5. So just one game better on the win-loss. What do you see from this team that's different from a season ago that gives you a lot of positivity about the remainder of the season and how it's going to play out?
Well, I think it's pitching and defense. I mean, that's how you win. I love offense. I was an offensive guy, and I know how offense goes. I mean, Hunter Hines is going to hit his home runs. Dakota's going to get his. Bryce Chance. Those are the things that have it's slowed us down a little bit here early, but they're a proven track record over years and years and years. But I like the fact that we put out a pretty good product out there, pitching and defense-wise, and that shows up every day. You got a chance to win a lot of games in our league, which is what we're preparing for. We're getting out and doing, we're preparing for SEC play, and we're trying to build a resume right now. That's why tomorrow's game is so big, and this weekend, and those couple games down in Biloxi. But when you don't pitch and play defense, man, it's not a good feeling going into every game. You never know what you're going to get. I feel like right now I have a pretty good idea of what we're getting from our guys day in and day out. When we run them out there, we put their name on the lineup card. You feel like you're going to get a consistent performance.
Once it starts, it goes in a hurry. Final weekend of non-conference play, Evansville in town. But first, Southern Miss tomorrow night in Pearl, and the game gets started at 6 o'clock. Chris, thanks as always for your time. Good catching up.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Chris Lemonis.